Today is July 1st and I will be doing a mid-year recap of my reading so far. First, we're gonna go to my iPad, which has my book journal. I have journal digitally, but look how cute she is. I started putting stickers on the front of it and I absolutely love it. I also have stickers on the back. I'm going to be going through all kinds of different things that I am tracking in my reading for this year, as well as like progress on some of my goals, on my TBRs, series that I'm reading, etc, etc, etc. Let's go ahead and start with our goals sheet that we have here. We don't have a ton of check marks, but we do have a lot of check marks in one area, so yay. So in our general goals, one of them is to reduce the physical TBR to less than 20 books. We're not there yet. We have the whole rest of the year. We're fine. We'll be okay. Read all of my owned Fairy Loot books. I have like 9 of them and we have not read all of those. We're making some progress. I'll get into it. My husband's watching the World Cup right now, so if you hear cheering or clapping, that's it. Read some classics, and I had 3 specific ones. Pride and Prejudice, which I believe is probably going to be my next book that I'm going to read physically, so we haven't done that yet. Peter Pan, haven't done that one yet. And Alice in Wonderland, which we have checked off. Yay. I reached level 20 in my D&D TBR game. I am not there yet. Finished the Red Rising series with Michael, because Michael, my husband, reads the Red Rising series out loud to me. It's like one of his favorites. I put in parentheses at least era 1, and we have finished that. We are currently on Iron Gold, so there's the first 3, which is like a trilogy or era 1, and then there's 3 more books, going to be 4, but we have read the first 3. We are now on book 1 of era 2. We've been on book 1 for a minute. I still check it off because I put at least era 1 and we have done that. And then my rereads that I wanted to do for the year are all checked. Heroes of Olympus series, I reread all of those. Perks of Being a Wallflower, read it. Speak, reread that. And The Hunger Games, I was so impressed with myself. I reread the first 3 Hunger Games books in like a couple of weeks. I was so proud. I gobbled up the first book in like a day and a half. I read them when the first movie like came out because I really got like into it and I wanted to read it. And so I read them when I was in like high school or like middle school and I liked them. But then I just like never really got super into it, and rereading them this time, I am a Hunger Games girl now. I love this series. It's so good. And so I reread those 3 and was like, perfect, ate it up. And then read for the first time Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I really liked that one. I thought that one was really good. And then I watched the movie, and I've rewatched all of the other movies as well, of course. I was in the zone, okay? And then I read Sunrise on the Reaping because I really wanted to reread these books to prepare for the movie coming out this year. I am excited and scared. All of my rereads that I wanted to get done for the whole year, I'm already done. Yay. And then series, we only have 1 checked off, which is Emily Wilde's. I had like only the 3rd book left to read and I was reading it at the beginning of the year, so easy. And then I do have 1 crossed out. I DNF'd it. It was 3 Dark Crowns. I only had the first book. I started reading it and I was like, oh, this isn't exactly like what I thought it was gonna be. And I wasn't interested in it. And so I was like, I'm good. And so I just DNF'd that series. I was like, I don't need to continue reading that. So my Fairy Loot reads, I've only read technically 1. I can actually update this to 2. One of them I DNF'd at more than 50%, so I kind of guess I count that as reading. It was Immortal by I forget who. It just wasn't for me. I wasn't really invested, and I have been a big fan of DNFing this year. I'm like, I want to read books that I really like. And there have been so many books where I'm like halfway into reading and I'm like, I don't care. And then I just recently read Alchemy of Secrets, which I gave 2.5 stars. So I unhauled Immortal. I will be unhauling Alchemy of Secrets. So 2 out of 9, not bad. In the process of getting to a lot of the other ones soon. I think at just the beginning of the year, I just was not able to get a lot of them done. I have no 1 star or 1.5 or even 2-star books this whole year. Before Alchemy of Secrets, I also had no 2.5-star book, but that was my 2.5-star book that I recently read. I don't know if I have just been like really light on my ratings of things, or if I have been just reading really good things. I haven't felt like I've been reading like amazing things, but I don't know. 2 3-star books, 4 3.5-star books, 11 4-star books. So a lot are getting to that tier, and 4-star doesn't mean bad, but it means it was good, but it wasn't like great. It was like really good, really liked a lot of aspects of this, but it didn't reach that point. 12 4.5-star books, which I think that is what's getting me, is I have a lot of books that are like almost there. 11 5-star books, and I don't know how many of those are rereads, because a lot of the times my rereads, if I read it once, it was probably 5 stars for me to then have to want to read it again, so we'll see. Page-wise, we've been pretty consistent in sticking with the 300 to 399 range being the one that I read the most of, but we have 6 in the 1 to 99 pages, 4 in the 100 to 199, 7 in the 200 to 299. I think a lot of those are some graphic novel things that I've been reading. 12 in the 300 to 399, 4 in the 400 to 499. There's no way. That's crazy. I've read 8 books that are over 500 pages. I think a couple of those were like barely over 500. I think a couple of those are some of the like Percy Jackson Heroes of Olympus books. I think a couple of those do get all the way up past 500 pages. That's crazy to me, because I usually don't read that many thick books, but that's cool. We've been a lot more ebook heavy this year, which is pretty fun. Library borrows, and I count these as just ones that I've finished. So if I borrowed a book and then I DNF'd it, I don't count it on library borrows. So 6 ebooks, 10 audiobooks, and then 11 physical books. I also don't count any ebooks that I check out for Michael, so that would make this even more, because I have actually been checking out quite a few for Michael on my account. Here's what some of my reading stats look like so far. These are just fun and colorful, but June was definitely my most pages read for the month. It was over 3,300, which is crazy. Just so you can see, it's the yellow one, was June. So far surpassed January. January, usually I start off really, really well, because that's before I really get into show season. I'm still kind of on winter break. The beginning of the year, I'm like, oh, I want to read all these books, and I have like a lot of motivation. And then it starts to teeter off. April is usually one of my worst months. It wasn't that far behind March this time, which is pretty good. And then May ramped up a little bit more. I think I was just so burnt out and so just dead in May. And then June, I had my upswing. We've been pretty close between male and female author of which ones I've been reading. Closer than normal. Usually it's like really female heavy. I do count duplicates, so like each time I read a Rick Riordan book, a male one gets put in there. As well as I've been reading the Avatar Last Airbender graphic novel series, and those are, it's written by a lot of people, but it's mainly written by men, so I just put male author, so that's been ticking it up a little bit. 19 written by a male that I have read, and then 21 by a female, and then 1 non-binary author. I would love to have a little bit more non-binary authors. I just don't know many that are out there. Obviously, my biggest genre is fantasy. Surprise, surprise. Now we're gonna get into some of these spreadsheet stats. So we're gonna go through the series tracker first. We have 56% of these books done. Some books have been added onto the spreadsheet and some books have been taken off. So this number kind of just fluctuates with that. So it's not really like I'm going to get to 100% by the end of this year, but it's just like a fun number to keep track of. But more series can be added to this tracker, and then some series, if I DNF it, obviously they get taken off and that reduces the numbers. But right now we're sitting at a read total of 40 and unread of 71 books that I still have to read within all of these different series. Total series that I am looking to complete that are in the sheet right now, there are 34 of them, and I have completed 10 full series. Out of the titles unread, I have completed or read 29 of them this year, which is pretty good. That's 29%. I'm in the middle of 9 series, and in the middle of just means like I have at least read one of the books, and so it doesn't mean I'm like currently actively right now continuing the series and reading it, but it does mean I'm in the middle of it. I have read one book of the series or more, and I still have more to complete. I am caught up with just 2, which means I've read all of the books in the series that are currently available for me to read. I'm waiting for the next ones. And then I have not started, which are in the sheet, 13. And when I say in the sheet, I have a list of series that I would like to start or add to it, and I'll put those in here, and that changes the numbers and stuff eventually. But if I put every single series that I want to read or I encounter on here, it gets way too overwhelming for me. So for it to get in the sheet, I need to have either started reading one of the books in the series, or I need to own the first book in the series. If I happen to start a new series that isn't on the sheet and I like it, I'll put it onto the sheet and we'll continue on that way. The series that I've completed this year so far has been Emily Wilde, as I said, Hunger Games, because I have completed it, even though 3/5 of it was reread. I did do all of that, and I read the 2 new books, so I have completed that series. And then Heroes of Olympus, which I know was all rereads. So not too many new series that I have completed, but I have been making some progress. Oh, I read Bloodmarked, which is the 2nd in the Legendborn cycle, so making more progress on that. Obviously the Red Rising saga, we've made more progress on that. Avatar: Last Airbender graphic novels, I'm making great progress on that. That was like my summer challenge to myself, was I wanted to read all of those from the library, and I've been doing a great job. I'm currently waiting for my hold to come in for the next 3. I read the 2nd book in the Heartstrings trilogy by B.K. Borson, and Now Back to You. I just recently read that. It was really cute. Oh, I did DNF a couple. I DNF'd the Haven Cove series. It was called To the Deep. I started reading it. It wasn't exactly what I expected. We were a good way into the first book, and they still had like no mention of mermaids, and it's supposed to be like a mermaid story, and I just wasn't here for it, and the writing wasn't that good. I didn't really care about it, so I just DNF'd it. It was on my Kindle, so I was like, this is fine, and it felt no remorse. I also DNF'd the Spell Shop series, which was crazy to me to have to do, because I loved The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I just didn't care about what was happening in the 2nd book. I got a good way, I think almost 50% of the way through, and I was buddy reading it with somebody, and I was like, I just don't care about these characters and like what's happening in their stakes. We are currently, I wanted to read 50 books this year. I think I'll probably have to up that, because we're at 41 right now, which is fantastic. I kept it to 50. I think I had 75 or something last year, and I wanted to do 50 just to really focus on reading books that I like and not have to just like get through a bunch of books to get to that number. My average page amount out of all of these books is about 324 pages per book, which I think is pretty solid. We do have a good amount of some 500s and a good amount of some like shorter graphic novels, and then a lot in between, so that makes sense. My average time to finish a book, I am impressed. I've been finishing books pretty well. There's only like a couple numbers in here that threw it off for a bit, but other than that, we're good. And so it's at 15 days, 15.3 days right now. New authors that I've had a lot less new authors than returning authors, which I think makes sense. If I'm trying to really focus on books that I enjoy, I'm going to a lot of the same authors, as well as you heard, I had a lot of rereads that I did, so they're returning authors. So new authors only 11, and then returning 30, so a little bit off. Format, we are still very heavily on the physical side of format reading, but this does count when I do like a mixture of listening and physically reading it. Longest spent reading was 134 days, and that was carried over from last year. It was literally the 2nd book that I read for this year, which was Golden Sun, which Michael read aloud to me. And I know my numbers are going to be messed up when we finish Iron Gold, because I think we started that in like February. We're maybe halfway done. My biggest month so far has been February. February I read 10 books. June got really close. We read 9 books in June, so that was pretty good. Worst month so far was March with only 4 books. Makes sense, I was really heavy in musical showtime during March, a little bit more so than in April. April, only half the month I was in like showtime, and then I also had spring break, so I think that helped, so I got all the way up to 6 books. But March was the worst with only 4. And then rating wise, my best month rating wise was January with 4.67 stars for the average, and then my worst month was actually June with 3.97, and that's because I had that 2.5 star book. The first one of the year was in June. But yearly average right now is about 4.48 stars, which is I think higher than usual. I usually stick around like 4 for my yearly average, so it's almost up to like 4.5, which is crazy. Publication years has been very all over the place. Last year's was very much like old books to like recent years. It was very much that kind of line, and this year is so boop doo doo doo. It's like all over the place. I have 5 that I've read before, that were published before the year 2000, which is crazy. I'm getting into a lot of older things. And then a good spread throughout the like 2000s all the way up to like 2017, all over the place. I think a lot of that is, again, the Heroes of Olympus rereading, Hunger Games rereading, all of those were like in that. For some reason, 2012, I've read 5 books from that year alone, and so that's like a spike in the middle of the graph. From like 2022 to 2026, it's like that. The most popular one being 2025, which makes sense, which it was just last year, with 6 books, and then I've only read 1 book that was published this year. Again, my book genre that's the biggest is fantasy. 33% of what I read is fantasy. I really like this new like little book genre graph that I have, and I love seeing it just like expand and add. And I love when I enter in a book being able to select multiple for a book, so then it's a little bit more accurate instead of like, well, this was mainly a fantasy more so than romance. I love that I can put like, this was a romance and a fantasy, this was a contemporary and a romance, and like things like that. So fantasy is the biggest. I think contemporary is the next biggest, and then I think the next biggest after that is romance, which makes sense. A lot of my romances are usually also contemporary, so that makes sense to me. Smallest one is horror. I only read 1 book that was considered horror, and when I put in the book genre, I go off of what Storygraph says that it is. So a lot of the time it will say just fantasy. I don't put, if it says like young adult or middle grade or anything like that, or just like LGBTQ, I don't put that because I'm like, I don't see that as like a genre. I feel like that's more of like a type of book. My books in and out for the year. I've really enjoyed this. There is a lot more green, which means minus from the TBR, than there is red. I did have to add trophy because it's not adding to my TBR, it's not taking away from it. I did have to buy a trophy book this year, which was The Hobbit, because my version of The Hobbit that I had gotten moldy, and I was so sad to have to throw it away. But then I was like, I need to buy a new version of it, so I bought a new version of it. The amount that I have added to the TBR has been 12. That's crazy. Subtracted quite a lot, 23. I've read half of the ones that I've added as well, which is good that I'm reading the ones that I'm bringing in, and there's only half that I need to still do that with. We started off with physical books, we had 40, and ebooks we had 17. We've unhauled 3, DNF'd 5. That's what's helping us out, I think. And we've only spent about $128 this year on books. Right now, standing at the end of June, early July, physical book total is 37, which is not as low as I wanted it to be at this point. However, it is because I just recently went to Barnes & Noble for Father's Day and I bought bought 3 books is fine. I was at 34 at the end of May. Last month I just like didn't really read that many physical books off of my TBR, so hurting me in that way. My ebook ending total is at 9 currently, which is such a big jump down. Quite a few of those sadly are just DNFs getting rid of. I kind of knew this at the start of the year. I was like, there are just some books on here that I'm like, I still don't want to read these. And if I kept feeling that way, I was like, you need to just get rid of them. So we'll see how it goes for the rest of them. My D&D TBR, I'm currently at level 17. For the summer months, I decided to not do a roll for each month. I just decided to do a rolls for the summer. I did 4 rolls. 2 of them had side quests, so there's technically 6 books on there that I want to have read by the end of summer, but I really want to just allow myself to read what I want to read. Out of those, we have Dance of Lies, Chalice of the Gods, Iron Gold. Yes, that will be finished by the summer. Michael. Juniper Bean Resorts to Murder, Alchemy of Secrets, which we have finished, 2.5 stars, but we got 6,000 experience points, and then Magic of Lemon Drop Pie. So those are the 6 books. Really fast, the books I'm currently reading right now, so it's these ones plus Iron Gold. We have Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare, so we will have that added to our series that we have started, as well as Juniper Bean Resorts to Murder is apparently also at least a duology, and so we're starting that one. I'm buddy reading it. And then A Dance of Lies. Oh, there you go, Dance of Lies. I am very close to finishing that one, so that'll be another fairy loot off of our list. This is apparently a series. I did not know that. I thought it was a standalone fantasy book. It's apparently a part of a series. I don't know how long the series is. The second book comes out later this summer. I will put it on the sheet if by finishing this book I am very invested and want to know what happens next. I'm really enjoying this book, but I don't know how it's going to end, so I don't know how I'm going to feel. That is my mid-year recap, kind of check-in, all of the fun stats and things like that. I think we're doing pretty well. Would love for more books to be read from my shelves. I think it's good news that my current books, they're all physical books that will be read, even though one of them I'm reading on my Kindle. And I'm pretty proud of how few books that I've put onto my TBR. I feel like I've done a really good job of just not buying a book. That is all I have. I will check in with you guys again at the end of the year, and we will see what the damage is.